Welcome to November, everybody. A month where Christmas is instantly celebrated early by everybody just before Thanksgiving arrives. Say, speaking of Christmas, do you know what I really like to watch during the Christmas time other than Elf, It's a Wonderful Life, and A Christmas Story, and even the Peanuts Holiday Special? Well, of course, judging by this review that I'm currently doing, I am of course talking about how much I enjoy watching the beloved animated Christmas special, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This was an amazing animated short that no matter how many times it was on, whether it was on Cartoon Network, ABC Family, just ABC in general, or because of the fact that I own it on VHS and it's currently on Blu-ray right now, me and my family would sit down and we would watch it and we would have an amazing time with it. Not only because of its beautiful animation or its extremely catchy songs, but it was because of the morals and the themes and the story that was created by Dr. Seuss himself. It's a timeless classic that everyone needs to see, and if you haven't seen it yet, do yourself a favor and see it before Christmas arrives. And also, seeing how I really love the 1966 animated cartoon, I decided to take a crack at Ron Howard's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, starring Jim Carrey as the Grinch. And that movie, it wasn't good, but it wasn't atrocious either. There was some positive elements that I really did have with the movie, like the makeup with the Grinch. It looks just like him, and some of James Horner's score is actually pretty good. But personally, I wasn't an overall fan with it, not only because Jim Carrey at points was getting kind of annoying, or the cinematography was so murky and it imitates Battlefield Earth with Dutch angles all over the place. Overall, the live-action Grinch movie wasn't my cup of moonshine. However, there are so many people who I know in real life and on the internet that actually really do like the Grinch movie, and you know what? More power to them, they can have it. Because at least I would go right up to them and I would say, at least you didn't see the worst Grinch movie ever. Because, other than making the 1966 animated original and making the 2000 live-action remake and calling it a day, we instead get treated to a third Grinch movie, this time being directed by Illumination Entertainment, the same people who made another Dr. Seuss movie by the name of The Lorax, one of the worst animated movies to come out this decade. And before you say anything, yes, I am not a fan of Illumination Animation. I didn't necessarily care for the Despicable Me movies, nor did I have the audacity to go see Sing. But Luke Nukem, didn't you give the Minions movie a positive rating? Well, because of the fact that, yes, I was a gullible 18-year-old and I gave it a positive rating. Times change, and so do opinions. So, in Illumination Entertainment's newer version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, it's essentially the exact same story as we've seen from the 1966 original or the Ron Howard remake in the year 2000. This time in this movie, Benedict Cumberbatch plays the Grinch. He's an angry, low-life person that hates everything that has to do with Christmas. He hates the Who's who celebrate Christmas. He has a dog named Max. He lives in a cave by himself. And so, after 40 minutes just to pad out the runtime with nothing but filler subplots, the Grinch then hatches a plan to steal Christmas away completely from the Who's. So let's just cut right to the chase. Yes, guys, you've heard it correctly. For those of you who watched the Jim Carrey remake, yes, you did not watch the worst Grinch movie, because this film... Okay, let's chill out. Let's be cool. Even though I am in a completely angry mood right now, let's calm down. But in all seriousness, along with 2012's The Lorax, Dr. Seuss's The Grinch is a corporately manufactured, made by committee, uncreative disaster that only exists, like the Despicable Me movies, to promote toys, or to sell a completely irritating song to the kids, or just to make kids laugh at the most juvenile, irritating humor possible. Now, let me tell you guys something before I dogpile on this movie. I never wanted to go into this movie wanting to hate it. I am always willing to give a movie a chance. But in all seriousness, guys, this animated studio makes it so hard for me to enjoy anything in a movie, whether it has to be the tiniest scene or just a small little joke. They always have to ruin any sort of goodwill I can have for anything I watch. So to start it off, let's talk about the things that I really did like. Well, I can definitely say that it's neatly animated, I guess. I mean, they do recreate the same character models as before, like with Despicable Me and such, and it doesn't entirely pop out to viewers in any way. So, yeah, it's neat. It's fine. I got nothing else to say. Moving right along. Let me first talk about the title character in the movie, Benedict Cumberbatch's Grinch. Now, seeing how I really liked Boris Karloff's The Grinch, and, well, I thought Jim Carrey's Grinch was tolerable, at least those two were the Grinch. Benedict Cumberbatch's Grinch is not a good Grinch. It's not that Benedict Cumberbatch does a terrible job doing the Grinch, but it's mostly because of the direction that he's given to his character. And it's poor. And it not only has to do with Benedict Cumberbatch's voice for the Grinch, where it sounds both nasally and high-pitched and annoyed, but it mostly has to do with how the Grinch is characterized, which is one of the biggest problems of this film. You see, in the 1966 original, Boris Karloff's Grinch, he was heartless, he was soulless, he was completely mad and sickening to anything that has to do with Christmas. He does not care about anybody he comes into contact with. He goes into almost such lengths as him abusing Max just to get what he wants. In this movie, he's not even that evil. He's not even that soulless or heartless. Even when the narration is like, Grinch's heart was 2 sizes too small, it's like, are you sure? And in this movie, he's a bit happy, he's a bit cheerful, and he even is best friends with Max. He's also like, ooh, I can't wait to steal Christmas, Max. And it's like, am I watching the same character? But also at other points when he's trying to do bad things to people or just do bad things in the sake of hating Christmas, they're not that bad. Even the most dastardly things he can possibly do is just something that even a 3rd grade bully would do. Like pushing off the head of the snowman, eating a pickle, and then putting it back into the jar for another person. And the Grinch doesn't have the pure raw contempt for Christmas as in the original, because in this movie, he's just either annoyed or irritated with life. That's the best way I can describe the Grinch in this movie. He's either annoyed or irritated with life. Which leads me to my next point, why even humanize the Grinch? At least in the 1966 original, it at least made sense because the Grinch spent the vast majority of the movie hating the Who's, and he hates Christmas, only to realize that Christmas means a little bit more. But throughout this entire movie, this Grinch spends most of its time learning lessons, rather than having a huge disagreement with Max only to go, I'm sorry, Max, I won't do it again. Or when capturing an animal only to see its family and then saying, okay, I'll let you go have fun with your family. It's like the Grinch wouldn't do that sort of thing. Because of the fact that he constantly hates Christmas, only to be a little bit joyful, and only to keep learning lessons over and over again and apologizing for things he shouldn't have been doing, it just makes his character wildly consistent. Now yes, this movie has the same exact plot as the original Grinch. It is predictable and generic as it can possibly be, except for one big flaw. This movie's plot is summarized with so many plot points that add nothing to the story, along with completely forgettable characters. Because hey, instead of making our version of the Grinch, making it 26 minutes long and making it animated, let's make it 60 minutes longer so that way we can add more filler to the story. Because here's what boggles my mind. How can you make Cindy Lou Who forgettable? You know, the little innocent character that was in both versions of the Grinch, where she's very innocent and pure and loves the spirit of Christmas. In this version of Cindy Lou, the character doesn't really stand out, not only because of her performance, which isn't really entirely good, but because she is only there to provide a giant, elaborate, great pumpkin-like subplot that goes nowhere. By the end of this movie, you would have completely looked at it and go, that did not add anything into the movie. Kenan Thompson is also in this movie, and he is so forgettable and shallow that it makes me question why he was even introduced in the first place. He's usually only there to provide a few scenes of comedy relief, and then you don't see him until the very end of the movie. And speaking of selling merchandise, you have Fred the Reindeer. That is his only purpose in the movie, to sell merchandise. Toys. And when you see him in the movie, you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, maybe he's gonna show up in the movie and actually do something productive for the Grinch. In actuality, he plays a little bit more like an afterthought, and then he leaves for most of the movie only to show up in like a huge Deus Ex Machina moment, and you're like, wait a minute, how did you get here so fast? Where did you come from? And also, can I ask a question? Pharrell Williams is the narrator. Why? Just why? But if you think that's bad, it gets worse. The jokes in this movie are stale, old, and migraine-inducing. Do you know what this movie really needs? Rather than having a nice message, a scene where the Grinch works out in pink undergarments. But it doesn't stop there, folks, for this movie has the goat yelling meme. Yay. Didn't we even get sick of that like 5 years ago? And also, I want to say this right now. The movie also throws in one final message in the movie that at first is a little bit heartwarming because it talks about the fact that, you have to embrace people that are alone in life, where it is basically a message about acceptance. When you see the movie, it's really appealing at first, however, the more you think about it, the more it just doesn't make any sense. In fact, it comes off quite hypocritical. And also that new hip theme song that they try to send to the youngest demographic, I'm done. Now look, I understand that Illumination really wants to provide today's kids' version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and that would be fine. But don't give them something that insults the kids' intelligence. Don't give them something that dumbs them down. Don't give them bloated, unnecessary comedy hijinks. Don't give them a Grinch movie that doesn't match the exact same theme and message that the original Grinch had. And do not throw the excuse that it's just a kids' film. Here's the thing, everyone. Kids' movies are an important part of growing up in your childhood. If I didn't watch all the good stuff when I was young, I would be a completely different person. In the words of Cinephile with a Microphone, if kids are not encouraged to think for themselves, they won't think for themselves. Just because you make a movie intended for children doesn't mean you can slack off. And this movie does exactly that. While it does have some neat animation at points, the story is predictable as can be. Benedict Cumberbatch is not a good Grinch, and his character is entirely inconsistent all the way through. The characters are forgettable. The subplots don't add up to anything after the film, as well as providing a message that really doesn't make any sense in the long run. It's an incredibly awful movie that comes off more as a cash grab than anything else. And that is why I'm giving Dr. Seuss's The Grinch 8.5 out of 5. Alright guys, that is my review of Dr. Seuss's The Grinch. Comment below, let me know what you thought about the movie. Find me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. And also, if you would like to see more reviews or rants like this, be sure to subscribe for more. My name is Luke Nukem, and you deserve better, Mr. Grinch.